Hello YouTube, this is Elwirfy, and today we're going to be going over some strategies I've been thinking about for my Blood Angels army. Now today we're going to be looking at our tank line, and we're going to be thinking about how we would want to honestly be used, like pretty much reevaluate the uses of our tanks. And what we want to do, like ideally, this first example is going to be, what do we do against swarm or horde type armies? What's the actual plan in dealing with this? Because so far I haven't yet had a chance to really face a swarm army, and that's mainly because of the players around. And if I was, like for example, I made my army because of what I thought would be fun to play, not necessarily what would be good to beat my other opponents, based on what they have. So my army isn't really designed to be very good against these more elite type armies. So hopefully I'll find an Orcs player or a Tyranids player or just someone who's doing a swarm army, so I can really find, see if my ideas and my plans for an anti-swarm horde army would work. Because I'm thinking about taking this to like a big tournament where there'd be like an apocalypse event or just something kind of nuts. Something where you need a lot of bodies. That's why I like having a lot of Death Company, and that was a lot of pain and time to work on making all these guys, and it kind of sucks how we lost our Death Company so quickly due to some templates. So that's why we're going to be a little bit more strategic with how we do things on the battlefield. So for this one, I'm actually not going to be sitting down that much. I'm going to move this chair. I'm going to be standing up, and I'm going to be showing off essentially what the new plan is. So say we have this, and we see there's a swarm army coming toward us. How do we deal with it with the army that I had brought to the game last time? Well, ideally, what my new idea is for dealing with this is, first off, we're going to march this guy across the table. We're just going to march it across. We're not going to be dropping it down to try and see if we can like target their leader or something. We're not going to do that. No reason to do that. Instead, we're just going to take this guy and push him forward up the table. Now, how are we going to do, how does the tank line actually work? So, based on, now, granted, I'm making a little bit of assumptions here, but as you can see, we've taken these Death Company infantry, and we split them into 6 groups of 5. So 30, obviously I have 30 Death Company at this models we have to work with. What I would want to do is I would want to take my 2 Vindicators here, make sure they're angled appropriately, and we'd be targeting generally the middle is where you generally want to be targeting your artillery pieces, so that way if they're scatter, it's more likely they'll go this way or this way than like if I aim over here, there's 1, 2, 3 areas where it could actually scatter compared to if we're in the middle. Hold on. Here we go. Compared to if we're in the middle, and then there's only 1, 2 ways for it to scatter. So you want to be aiming for the middle. So these guys, they're going to aim for the middle. What are these guys going to do? Well, since we know that this guy's going to try and engage with the boss unit, whatever the big bad is, these tanks need to drive forward, and apparently their front armor is actually better than their side armor. So actually parking forward, or sometimes even maybe to block line of sight of my infantry, to give cover. Because I've been thinking about it. Perhaps I don't want, who cares if these rhinos live or not? They're just transport vehicles. But what this means is that I can unload, with my, this guy, the cool rocket launcher trooper. This squad can unload. And let's go ahead and grab our squad for that, so that way we can visualize this on the board and kind of how this new setup would look. If we did something along these lines in a battle. So let's go ahead and pull out the models. I know I said I wasn't going to pull them out, but I'm going to do it anyway. So there's 8 Marines there in that pile. So we would have it set up so we like the rocket launcher guys like peeking out. We'd have the general guy in the back. We'd keep him up against the rhino so he's out of line of sight. And then I don't know, we'd like have a couple Marines looking out on this side. We always want to make sure that we have a Marine in front, a minimum of 1 Marine in front. Like during the movement phase, we need to make sure we're reorganizing our troops so that way he's never the first one in fire, in the chance to be fired at. just for protection's sake, and then keep a couple of guys up, and then to maintain coherency, we'd have like a little line of guys. So that's how we'd set up for that side. For this side, where I've been thinking about it, pretty sure we still want to keep the flamethrower in here. Because if we're taking this example of how to deal with a swarm army, you know, the swarm is going to be like on top of us. And presumably we're still going to be taking a lot of losses, you know, just no matter what. In Horde armies, they just roll so much dice that it is almost impossible to not lose something. So, like, you know, they're going to be coming after us. Here, there's all these guys. To illustrate the point. Right? So, they're like swarming us. So for the other side, we still want to grab our cool flamethrower guy here. Oh, we have silver paint now, so we can paint the barrel of that. So I'm excited. I'm going to do more painting as well. I want to make these guys look nicer. They look fine now. They're completely playable in the tournament, but we want them to look nicer. So once again, on the same side, pull out the flamethrower guy. We're going to have our... let me find it. Ah, yes. We have our, again, our commander lieutenant guy with his chainsword. He'll again also be in the back, you know, but keep in mind we're putting our sergeants on the side that's closer to where the enemies are going to round the corner, so that way we can use the little bit of melee advantage they possess with the chainsword to their advantage. And this time we're going to remember to actually roll Feel No Pain, so they have that invulnerable save. Well, we'll roll Red Thirst and see if they get it. You know, they have to earn it, but that's possible. And then once again, the same principle applies. We want to make sure that we have at least one Marine in front of him, with possibly a second one backing him up just in case. And then we need to make sure that, you know, there's a Marine peeking out on this side with a second Marine who's also visible, because line of sight matters in Warhammer, so it's important to make sure you have that line of sight. And then of course the guy in the middle maintaining unit coherency, which is very important. And then of course we still want to have as many guys up close to the front of the battle as possible. I'd probably let me do something like that. And like this. Oh, actually, I really like this Marine, just because I was able to. He was one of the first ones I ever painted. That's why he actually looks kind of halfway decent. So I really like this guy. He's like an original Marine. Marines aren't actually designed to hold the gun like that anymore. I have an older generation of Marines. Fun facts. So then, see how we have this kind of more defensive. Oh, that's not in the shot here. So this guy's going to be here. These are going to be off from the back. But pretty much it's more defensive now. Now we actually have like a platform in which to defend ourselves. That's why I'm thinking it would be okay. Now this is the part where things get experimental. I think it's okay to walk the Terminators onto the board. Not drop them in. Nope, I don't think dropping Terminators in at all will necessarily be a good way to do it. I think they should be walk-in, placed further behind all of this, so that way they can adjust to the battle as needed and go join an assault, pile in, or shoot at something, you know, that is better odds. So the question is then, well, what's going in the drop pod? You know, why do we have it? Possibly not going to use it. I don't want to not use it when we're fighting a swarm army, because it still gives us that element of surprise. Because when you're fighting a swarm army, and like say I didn't have my death company, I just had the red guys and, you know, just the dreadnought, you're fighting with limited units against hordes of really cheap shitty units. So how do we do this? Well, what we want to do is if they have any more big bads than just the one that, you know, our dreadnought's going to be fighting, well, that's when we want to go ahead and go into the back. You know, we open up the flaps, and then this is where, is that still in the shot? Yes. That's where we drop in. Oh yeah, this guy, the Meltagun. Meltaguns have a good chance of getting some damage onto big things, you know, big monsters. Very good, very useful. So we take the regular, you know, he's really fancy looking, but he's just a sergeant. He's not, or lieutenant. Nothing special, you know. And then his squad will drop down out of the drop pod, which is a much quicker way. Oh, definitely this guy. Paint's smearing off. Sorry. So I like to be aware of these things. Right, so it makes it so that way our squads all get used. Because that one lone squad that was, out in the open and had to walk, across the battlefield, that was terrible. What did they do? They accomplished, like, barely anything. If that. Because they weren't able to really make use of, the power of having the rapid fire bolters. That's what matters. So see, look at this kind of a position. Say we're the red guys, Oh yeah, and our actual commander, captain, he would probably attach himself to this Terminator unit. Or just be lone wolfing it. Depends on the mission. But he'd be safe, don't worry. So I like this kind of setup when you know that an enemy is swarming you, and you know they're coming after you, and it really seems like the best chance you're going to have is if you need to have a good solid wall, right? If they're going to be charging you. If this is a melee-based army. If it's a shooting army, then we actually change up our tactics drastically, which I won't get into right now. But if they're melee, it seems like this is the best setup I can do with the units I possess. Provided, of course, we only have access to the red units, because I feel like what would realistically happen, if the enemy has artillery, they're going to probably target the Terminators, or the Dreadnought, or they're going to target the Vindicators. The point is, they're not targeting the Rhinos, but the Marines. Why? Because, well, people don't really value Marines as much as they really should. I like Marines. I value them incredibly well because they can roll a lot of dice. That's where a lot of my ranged dice rolls come in. And that's mainly because I'm using single heavy-hitting units, obviously not including the ball predators that'll change everything about this. But for now, without the ball predators, this is the kind of setup I'm looking at. And honestly, I'd love to know what you guys think of this for dealing with a melee swarm army. If you think this is a good tactical positioning-wise, good setup and plan for dealing with this if it ever were so to rise. Obviously, the table would be bigger. This concept would be more spread out. Or maybe I would still be all compact and together, ready to accept the fact that templates would deal damage. But, that's what that squad up there's for. That's for dealing with any artillery, to at least tie it up. So that way my artillery could perhaps fire upon it, and then we could get some good damage. That's my thoughts on it. Not sure if you agree or not. Anyway, guys, I'm Elwirfy, and I'll see you guys next time.